Europe, particularly the Netherlands, experienced a significant wave of immigration between 1992 and 2006. This influx had a notable impact on the demographics of the region. As an interpreter working with women in Dutch shelters, I witnessed firsthand the consequences of this shift. Many women, particularly those from immigrant backgrounds, reported experiences of honor violence, forced marriage, and sexual assault. These accounts highlighted a critical issue: the stark contrast between Western values regarding gender roles and those prevalent in more traditional patriarchal societies. The arrival of individuals from these cultures, often with deeply ingrained beliefs about women's roles and behavior, created friction. This cultural clash manifested in various ways, including an increase in violence against women. The principle of multiculturalism, while seemingly well-intentioned, often led to a dangerous tolerance of harmful practices. By failing to acknowledge and address the root causes of gender-based violence and inequality, multiculturalism created a climate where women's safety was compromised. This tension created a breeding ground for conflict and violence, as some men sought to impose their cultural norms on women who dared to challenge them. Europe's commitment to multiculturalism, while admirable in its pursuit of diversity, came at a price. Practices like female genital mutilation and child marriage, though abhorrent by Western standards, were sometimes tolerated in the name of cultural sensitivity. This reluctance to intervene stemmed from a fear of being perceived as racist or culturally insensitive. This approach, however, reflects a form of bigotry of low expectations. It assumes that certain cultural practices are acceptable simply because they are rooted in tradition, even if they violate fundamental human rights. Ignoring harmful practices under the guise of cultural sensitivity only perpetuates inequality and injustice. It sends a message that certain cultures are exempt from the rules that govern the rest of society. True equality demands that we apply universal standards of human rights and hold everyone accountable for their actions. The consequences of this misguided tolerance are far-reaching. Ultimately, the price of tolerance, when it comes at the expense of human rights, is far too high. The UK's grooming gang scandal, a horrifying example of the dangers of overlooking cultural clashes, received surprisingly little attention from American media. This scandal involved the systematic sexual abuse of thousands of young girls, primarily by men from Pakistani communities. The authorities' initial reluctance to address the issue, fueled by fears of being labelled racist, allowed the abuse to continue unabated for years. Similarly, the mass sexual assaults in Cologne on New Year's Eve 2016, where over 1,200 women were targeted, predominantly by men of non-German origin, further underscore this point. These attacks, met with a woefully inadequate response from authorities, demonstrated a blatant disregard for women's safety and autonomy. These incidents sparked outrage and ignited a debate about the price of multiculturalism, particularly when it comes at the expense of women's safety. By avoiding open discussions about cultural differences and their potential impact on women's safety, European societies have inadvertently created an environment where such incidents can occur. One of the unintended consequences of Europe's multicultural approach has been a surge in sexual harassment and assault against women, particularly following mass migration waves. For example, in Germany, asylum seekers, despite representing a small percentage of the population, are disproportionately represented in sexual violence crime statistics. This rise in violence has had a ripple effect, impacting women of all backgrounds. Public spaces, once considered safe havens, have become sites of fear and anxiety. Swimming pools in various countries have implemented women-only hours, often citing Muslim modesty as a reason. While seemingly a solution, this segregation highlights the failure to integrate newcomers effectively and instill in them respect for women's bodily autonomy and freedom. These measures underscore the underlying issue of cultural dissonance and the urgent need for effective integration programs that address these disparities. The increase in sexual violence and the subsequent restrictions placed on women's freedom represent a significant setback for gender equality. Societies must prioritize the safety and well-being of all their members, regardless of their cultural background. The United States, grappling with its own cultural and social challenges, can learn valuable lessons from Europe's experience. Addressing sexual violence is crucial, regardless of the perpetrator's race or cultural background. Ignoring such incidents due to political correctness perpetuates the problem. Focus on accountability and creating a culture of respect and safety for all. By confronting these issues head-on, the United States can create a more just and equitable society.